Hello, everybody. How you doing? I'm Coach JT. This is the Catching Up with Coach. This is the Run for Millville City Commission series. I'm here with Dan Dixon, one of the candidates. Let the people know a little bit about Dan. Who is Dan?
So, for the past 20 years, I have owned Impact Fitness and Martial Arts, where I've coached Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I've coached sports performance coaching for kids who are going off to college. They want to play at a higher level. So, we do sports performance coaching, and we also do personal training. I do train a lot of guys in their 40s and 50s who just want to feel younger, feel better, and get in better shape and just feel better about themselves. So, um, we run a jiu-jitsu team. We do a lot of competitions. I used to coach MMA. My son was a pro fighter, had a couple other pro fighters. So I've done a lot of coaching in the past 20 years. And, we've been located in Millville over by the airport for 20 years now.
Nice. Good stuff, man. Cool. So talk a little bit about your upbringing. Were you in Millville your whole life?
So, yeah, I was I'm 55 years old. I lived in Millville my entire life.
Nice.
Grew up right out on Broad Street between Wade Boulevard and 10th Street. My dad still lives there now, Dale Dixon. He's very active in Cumberland County Community Church. If he's listening, he's a great guy, and I just hope to be half as good a person as he turned out to be. So he's a good guy, and I don't think there's anybody who can say a bad word about my dad.
Awesome.
So, yep, we grew up. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked as a dispatcher for Jaffe Lumber. We didn't have a lot of money, but we were a happy family, and I had a good upbringing, and my mom and dad were good people, and they raised me the right way. So I lucked out. I lucked out and had good parents who raised me well and had me focus on my schoolwork. Went to college after high school for 3 years to study physical education. Ran out of money. Life gets in the way,
Yep.
and I had to stop going to school. And I didn't go back to school till a lot later on. I went to school and started going back to school in 2019, and finally finished up my bachelor's degree in exercise science.
Wow.
And then after that, I went back and got a master's degree in exercise science, and then I went and got another master's degree in clinical human performance. And right now, I'm working on my PhD in exercise science. So,
Wow.
yeah, I waited till they call me a lifelong learner. It's something I waited till I was in my 50s to start doing, but it's paid off, and I enjoy the process.
Awesome. Good stuff, man. And I'm glad that you brought up the importance of having parental support. What I see a lot of times in mentoring myself and coaching, the kids that usually get the head start are the ones that come from good households with mom and dad both support. Not necessarily always in the same household, but having that support and encouragement from mom and dad goes a long way.
Something you told, something we talked about. We met, about 3 weeks ago. We had lunch together, and what impressed me about you was the fact that you've kind of stepped into that role with a lot of these kids who may not have a father figure, where you've kind of stepped in and you've mentored them and you've given them something constructive to do, and you've kind of taken that role on for so many kids and kind of intervened when they could have turned one way, and you've kind of intervened and taken another way with them. So I really respect that about what you do. A lot of people talk the talk, and a lot of people talk about wanting to help people, and you actually do it. You don't get paid to do it. It's just something that's on your heart that you do, and I have a lot of respect for you for doing that.
Thanks, appreciate it, man. And again, thank you for taking the time to talk about why you're running and everything that you represent. That's what it's all about. Just being a stand-up guy. Your martial arts company. You have brought us in that the kids get free workouts. So you definitely been somebody that uh, had an eye on. And it's not just the fact that you're running. You did that. That's probably been like 6 years ago.
Yeah, that was a few years ago. Yeah. We get busy, and you reached out to me and you asked if the kids could come out and experience what jiu-jitsu was. And, a lot of kids, they at least they get to experience it. They get to see what it's about. Whether they join or not, they get to see experience what it's like to choke somebody or twist somebody or throw somebody on the ground. And it's a great way to defend yourself. And that's another thing I like. You are constantly getting these kids to experience things that they wouldn't normally get to experience, which I think is really cool. There was one time I saw some inner city kids. They were up at the not the Smithsonian, the Franklin Institute,
Yep.
and there was some sort of light show going on, and you could see that some of these kids had never got to experience something
Yeah.
like that before. And I think that's really cool what you do, where kids that may not get a chance to experience different types. Like when I'll talk a little bit about how I grew up. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I didn't play a lot of sports. My parents didn't have a lot of money for me to do baseball or a lot of other activities.
Mhm.
So I didn't get a chance to experience a lot of things. So I really think it's cool that you are taking these kids around and just having them experience different things and try it and see what they like and see what types of things that they might be interested in. So that's really cool that you're doing that. I didn't get a chance to do that. Um, I went through school, even though my parents were tremendous parents and they had great values and they set me on the right path. We didn't have a lot of money, and so we didn't get a chance to, do a lot of, fancy things, or
Mhm.
I would, I don't want to say we were poor, because I felt like, we always had good meals every night, and we did take a very small trip to Lancaster every year to Dutch Wonderland. I think everybody goes to Dutch Wonderland,
Yeah.
but we took a trip to Dutch Wonderland, I think about once a year. I think we left on a Friday and we came back on a Sunday, and went Saturday. We went to Dutch Wonderland,
Wow.
and we did that every year. We found out we were getting too old for it when we were more interested in the girls that were working there than the rides. So
That's how
me
it
and my
be.
brother would walk around and we would try to flirt with the girls that worked there for the rides. And we said to her, I think we're getting too old for Dutch Wonderland.
Wow, man, that's cool.
But yeah, so I grew up kind of in a I'm not going to use the word poor, but we didn't have a lot of money, and that was great. My dad's a tremendous father, and my mom was a great mom, and that's really what mattered. And even after I got married the first time, there were times where I was dirt poor, and had, I think at one time I had a jar of peanut butter and 3 apples to my name, and
Yeah.
a lot of people can identify with that. So everything that I've done, it's through hard work, and I was lucky enough to have parents who taught me how to work hard, and made me do homework. And every night I would sit down at the table, and I would have to do my homework before I could do anything else. My mom didn't let me go play baseball after school. I had to sit down and finish my homework, make sure it was done. And I remember listening to all the shows on TV. That's why my imagination is so good, because I would listen to Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley from the other room, and I would imagine it in my head, but I would be sitting there doing my homework. So it's good that they did that for me.
Good stuff. Nice, man. So you're running for city commission, Millville. There's 19 candidates. What is it about your candidacy that you think can set you apart? What is your plan for the people of Millville?
When I first started thinking about running, I've always been in a position where I can help people, and I think of, jujitsu as a vehicle where people can get in shape. I know so many people that have had anxiety, depression issues. I mean, you would be shocked at how many people would say jujitsu basically saved my life, because there's something about jujitsu that is addictive, and there's something about a jujitsu that it releases anxiety. It helps with depression. It makes you get friends and support, and it's something where I've been able to help people through that vehicle. And I've been able to help people, kids, training them. I've been able to mentor kids and talk to kids and help kids, just almost like what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And people who personal train, who get healthier. I've always been in a situation for the past 20 years where I can help people. And when I first started thinking about running, I didn't really think about it that way at first. I'm being honest with you. I thought about helping out Millville, and I said to myself, you know what? I want to run because Millville's at a turning point right now.
Yep.
And you feel it. I feel it. You feel it. Where Millville has been allowed to, over the past 4 years, get to a point where it's become more violent, where it's become, our public safety has been allowed to become a little bit lax. And you see what happens. You see when people don't feel safe, you can see how there's some blocks on High Street that don't have a single business, maybe one business out of all of High Street. And people realize that. I wouldn't want to invest $100,000 or $500,000 in a business when you have to be afraid that bullets are going to whiz past you.
Exactly.
So that was really the main reason I was running, is because I want everyone in Millville to feel safe. And the people who are most, I think there's a lot of people in Millville who paint the areas that we call the bad areas, like
Mhm.
maybe the third ward or
Mhm.
maybe Center City. They paint that all with one brush.
Yep.
They say, all those people are terrible. All those people are on Section 8. All those people are, troublemakers. And I don't think that's true at all. I
Exactly.
say this all the time. I think there's probably 200 to 300 people in Millville who are the ones causing all the chaos. Maybe less. You could probably tell better than I could.
Mhm.
But I think there's so many good families. There are so
Yep.
many good people who just want to come home, who just want to raise their kids. They want to enjoy themselves. They want to, you know, be out in the neighborhood without having to worry about drugs being sold, without having to worry about, being shot, bullets whizzing, people getting
Mhm.
murdered. People like you and me who just want to go home and raise our families and love our
Yep.
children. And that's kind of what's on my heart as far as Millville goes. I want everyone. I'm fortunate enough now. I've worked hard all my life. I've come from basically nothing, and I've gotten to the point where I'm comfortable. I'm not a rich guy, but I'm comfortable. Me and my wife both work hard, and I don't have to worry about when I get out of my car. I don't have to worry about
Mhm.
getting shot or getting mugged. But there are people, and I've had to live in places where I thought like
Yeah.
that when I first
Yeah.
got married.
Definitely that.
But I think about the people who have to worry about, oh, what's going to happen to my child when I let him run
Mhm.
outside? What's going to happen? Is he going to be safe?
Exactly.
And I want Millville to be a place where everyone can feel comfortable, everyone can feel safe, everyone can feel protected. And I think, as far as law, I have ways where I think that we can root out those 200 to 300 people that are the ones that are making it bad for everybody.
Definitely.
And I think if we can do that, and another prong is what I want to work with you on, getting to children and kids before they make that decision to do the wrong thing. And
Exactly.
that's what's been on your heart. I think
Yep.
if there's basically, in my mind, there's three prongs. There is law enforcement.
Mhm.
There's some bad apples out there right now that have to be, law enforcement has to, enforce the law. They have to make sure that we don't have open air drug markets. They have to make sure that, people aren't shooting people on High Street.
Yep.
You saw what happened. You told me you saw what happened
Mhm.
before that whole thing came down.
Yep.
Um, and there's things we can do with nuisance properties, with criminal nuisance properties, with landlords. I
Mhm.
have a very detailed plan on my website. And then I think if you reach the youth at a certain age, I think we will see in 2 or 3 years, we will see the city really turn around.
Yeah.
I really believe it. There's people who I saw somebody post, I forget, might have been another candidate, but that's not important. They said, let's face it, Millville's never going to be the way it was.
Mhm.
And I don't believe that. I don't
Yeah.
believe Millville can't be a wildly different place than what we see right now. And I
Exactly.
think it's going to take everybody helping out. I don't paint Center City with that brush of, oh, they're all troublemakers.
Exactly.
Because they're not. They're absolutely not. There's
Yep.
good people down there. There's good people who want to just live a good life. And I think they're ready to stand up too. And
Definitely.
I think people that live in all of Millville have seen enough. We've all seen enough, and we're all tired of what we're seeing, and
Mhm.
we're all ready to stand up, and we're all ready to take a stand and do what it takes to take the city back.
Exactly. Definitely, man. Good plan. 'Cause that's what it's all about, man. Like you said, working with law enforcement and the landlords. That's one thing that I've always told people, that certain premium areas, in my opinion, should come with a little bit more responsibility. If you're on Second Street and the high visible areas, you should be held to a higher standard, because you're the first thing that people see when going back and forth to the shore, and you want people to feel safe to come and say, all right, let's frequent this area, let's go to the stores. But if they're just like, oh, let's just hurry up and breeze through this town because it looks like a ghost town, it's not going to keep people, you know, um, supporting the stores. The mom and pop is what keep the town strong. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting because we just went on vacation to visit my wife's family in Alabama, and we
Uh-huh.
went to a little city called Rome, Georgia. It's a little bit bigger than Millville. It's about 37,000 people. Millville's got about 27,000.
Uh-huh.
It's very diverse. It's a 60-20-20, 60 white, 60 African American, and 60 Hispanic. Or 60, that's not 100. 60-20-20. So 20% black, 20% Hispanic.
Uh-huh.
And so that's even a little more diverse than Millville is
Yeah.
right now. And we went down to their downtown, and I would love to show you on my phone. It was incredible. shops, clothing shops, and there were people of all diverse backgrounds walking around shopping. And I looked at that. This was just a month ago, and I said, "This is what Millville could be."
Yeah.
And they don't play around there when it comes to crime. They're very strict on crime. They don't allow things to go on down there. And when it comes to homeless people, there has to be compassion for homeless people.
Yeah.
And people who want help need to be able to get help.
Exactly.
But people who don't want help, who are either have mental illness issues or who have drug problems, they need to somehow get help, even though they don't want it.
Exactly.
And and somebody was I had a barbecue this weekend, and somebody asked me, they said, "How do you feel about the homeless?" And some people are, it goes both ways. And I was said jokingly, I said, "Tell me how you feel first." So I kind of joked around and said, "Tell me how you feel first." But to me, it really comes down to, if you were to invest, like you look at El Guacamole. I went in there and talked to them, and they said that somebody was in there panhandling during lunch. And the last thing, you're spending a good meal. They've probably spent $500,000 on that place.
Yeah.
And I look at it both ways. I think we should have compassion for people who are either going through tough times, who need legitimate help. But then you also have to look at the other side of the coin. Where you also have to understand that when somebody invests $500,000 and they're not necessarily rich people, they're eking by meal that they're selling. Exactly. You have to understand that they don't want to have to step over homeless people who are laying in front of their door. So I think there's a lot of ways that we got to work with the county. We have to find out, is the county coming out and actually offering help to these people? What help is the county actually offering? How often do they come out? How often are they coming out and saying, "Hey, can we get you into a shelter?" How often are these people saying, "No, I like my life where I can," if you go into a shelter, you have to get off drugs.
Yeah.
You can't be in a shelter and be on drugs. So a lot of folks, they avoid getting help because they don't want to give up their addiction. So it's a complex issue. It's not an easy issue. But I see both sides. I think we have to have compassion for the people who are suffering with these problems. But we also have to understand that people who've invested in this city expect to have a certain, they expect to, be able to have customers come in without being harassed or without feeling unsafe.
Exactly.
So there's two sides of the coin. And I certainly understand as a business owner that, we're actually out at the airport where we're kind of away from it. So we don't have anybody coming in, but I can understand. I talk to plenty of business owners who struggle with, customers feeling safe.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Yeah, so I see how that's an issue, because that happens a lot. And like you said, it's a complex thing where you want to have compassion, but then you have to also be considerate of the business owners.
Right. I kind of consider myself a libertarian. People ask what I'm a registered Republican, but I'm more of what I would consider libertarian, in the sense that I feel like everybody has the right, the freedom to do anything that they want to do until it affects your rights.
Exactly.
Your rights end where my rights begin.
Yeah.
So you can have the freedom to do the things that you want to do, as long as they're not infringing on my rights. And that's kind of, I think a lot of people feel that way. When it comes to issues, these are national issues, but when it comes to issues that are national issues, I don't want to infringe on anybody's rights. However, you don't have the right to lay down in front of my, camp in front of my business when I'm trying to survive.
Exactly.
So Millville has an anti-camping ordinance, and a lot of people who are, I don't want to say pro-homeless, nobody's pro-homeless, but people who are compassionate for the homeless say, you've made being homeless illegal.
Yeah.
And nobody's trying to make homelessness illegal. They're just trying to protect the rights of the business owners who've spent lots of money. And you say, oh, they're just rich people, they can afford it. Not necessarily.
Exactly.
When I went, we barely made it through COVID. When Phil Murphy shut us down, we actually couldn't get any of the PPP, stuff, where all these people were getting all this money because we're sole proprietors. We actually had to take a loan out just to make it through. We had to borrow a lot of money just to survive. And I don't think we still recovered fully from COVID.
Yeah.
And you don't. Like I said, we're not rich people, but we invested a lot of money in our business, and I totally understand how business owners, they want to protect their business and they want to protect their livelihood, and that's their that's how they support their family.
Definitely, exactly. Yeah. So, with that being said, I'd like to ask the guests before we close, how do you think we can make the world a better place to live? Just to add to some of the things that you already said.
Well, I think if we look at the big picture,
Hmm.
I always talk about kids. We've talked to kids about what the golden rule is. What's the golden rule? Treat
Hmm.
everybody else how you want to be treated.
Definitely.
And I think if everybody, um, you know, I, I'll talk about something that just happened today. Somebody had made a post
Hmm.
on Facebook, and they said, "Oh, so you've commissioners who are running. Some of you guys aren't following the law because you have to have your forms in by a certain date. Some of you guys are breaking the law." And the thing is, if you're that concerned and you saw something, why wouldn't you just email the person? Like if you were running,
Yeah.
I could email and say, "Hey JT, I don't know if you knew this, but your D1 form should have been filed,
Hmm.
last week. I just
Yeah.
wanted to tell you that so you could get in compliance rather than throwing something out. Facebook is toxic.
Yeah, it can be,
I
man.
wish I didn't
Definitely.
have to have Facebook. I
Uh-huh.
have Facebook for my business because that's how we promote a lot of it.
Yeah.
But people are so toxic.
Hmm.
I think people in Millville are tired of the toxic, somebody always looking to get you, somebody
Yep.
always looking to find out what's wrong, something like that post.
Uh-huh.
You know, if you're that concerned, why wouldn't you email somebody instead
Uh-huh.
and say, "Hey, candidate, I see that you haven't," and it wasn't me, I'm in compliance, but hey, candidate, I see that you haven't filed this report. I just want to make sure that you're
Hmm.
you're in compliance, rather than saying you guys are breaking the law. It's a toxic environment. I think Millville people are tired of that toxic back and forth, aggressive, confrontational, argumentative tone. I think we are all ready for five people who can get along,
Yep.
get a plan together. I said, whoever's in, if I'm one of the five people that are fortunate enough to get elected, I think we should sit down ahead of time and say, this is our 30-day plan. We want to get this done in 30 days. We want to get this done in 60 days. We want to get this done in 90 days. And here's our goal to make this city better.
That's
And
good.
are these things that we're doing everything we should do, will this improve the city? And when we look at what we do, ordinances, will this improve the lives of people in the city?
Yep.
Because that's why we're here. We're here to improve the lives of everyone.
Exactly.
We're not here for special interests. We're not here to help our friends out. We're not here to get our friends jobs or anything like that. And that there's nothing in this for me, as far as I've already put a good amount of money out toward this campaign.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if people know that the commissioners only make, I think it's $9,000 a year.
Uh-huh.
It's like almost nothing.
Yeah.
It's almost not even almost not worth getting, compared to what the time you put in for
Yeah.
those 4 years.
Hard work,
Because
man.
people, they expect you to be there a certain number of hours a week just to make sure your department's running well.
Yep.
So there's nothing in this for me. I have no a dog in the fight other than the fact that I want to help Millville out. Um, I I said, it's Millville's going the wrong direction. It's either we get out
Uh-huh.
or I step up. The boat is sinking. I'm either going to grab a bucket
Yep.
and start, getting the water out of it,
I
or
feel
we're
you.
going to put the life preservers on and get out and swim ashore. And that's kind of where we are. I think if we have the right people, I think we can, people say it's not going to happen overnight. Of course, it's not going to happen overnight. Dan Dixon talks like it's all so easy. I know it's not easy,
Uh-huh.
of course, but at least I have a plan.
Exactly.
I have a plan that, our three-pronged attack. I would love to be able to, not make people say, oh, he makes promises. I'm not making promises. I think that you would be a great guy to work with, as
Uh-huh.
far as, the city should partner with someone like you to help on that one prong of reaching youth when they're most at risk.
Yep.
Um, and that's not me making promises to JT Burke or telling him we're going to give you all this money. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying you're the type of person that I think the city should partner with
Uh-huh.
in order to get one of those prongs of improving the city.
Definitely.
So I think if first of all, like I said, if people just treated each other with respect, and
Yep.
they go back to the golden rule, treat other people like you'd like to be treated. Well, that goes with all aspects. If you should clean your yard up. You should
Yep.
have your yard looking nice. You should have pride in your own
Definitely.
yard. And if everybody did that, the city would look 10 times better.
Yep.
If everybody just treated everybody else the way they like to be treated, crime would disappear overnight.
Yep.
It
It's the
would.
truth, man. Definitely.
So I think there's some things we can put in place to make Millville a better place. But the big picture is I think there's some things that are missing. I think a lot of kids, whether they're black or white, Puerto Rican, I think there's so many kids that don't have those good parental role models. And I think with some of those kids, there's some cities that have implemented something called character training
Mm-hmm.
in school, morality training, where they implement that in school and it teaches the curriculum. The school board controls it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But there really should be a consideration of putting values type education in play. Great, the difference between right and wrong. But there's a lot of kids that don't get that anymore.
That's true.
So
That's true.
you're trying to instill it, but you don't get to reach as many kids as you would like.
Exactly.
So I think if that were something that were instituted, that would help out too. It's been shown, studies have been shown that's something that is effective, and
Exactly.
I'll take a 25% reduction in crime.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And you add in enforcement along with that, and you add in nuisance property and evictions, and where you're really coming down on landlords for not taking care of the properties in a lot of ways. And I think you put those, we're 4 years in and we haven't made significant movement toward improving the city. I'm not gonna run again, because my goal is within 4 years to be an effective leader.
Yeah.
And if I can't be an effective leader in 4 years, then I will step aside for somebody else, to come in. And I don't want to. I'm not going to warm a seat.
Yeah.
We have a lot of seat warmers right now who I don't know what their motivations are for running. I'm not going to guess. Some of them just like to be called commissioner. Some of them like the power. Some of them are really excited by the fact that they're in politics.
Yeah.
None of that excites me. The attention, that kind of thing. That none of that is exciting to me. What's exciting to me is to see results. Everything I've done, I've owned sales companies before I started my martial arts company, and it was all about results.
Yeah.
I didn't get, for 30 years. I haven't got paid. Haven't had a paycheck in 30 years. Meaning, for 30 years I haven't worked for anybody but myself, and I worked on commission as a independent sales rep for my own sales company. And if I didn't sell, I didn't eat.
Wow.
And my family, it was 100% commission. And that's kind of how it is with my business now. There's a lot of people who've never been in that position.
Definitely.
And I'm not knocking people for having a 9-to-5 job. A lot of people aren't meant to own their own, to work on commission 100%. But my mindset is, we've got to get results.
Yeah.
We've got to get results. And if I don't get results in 4 years, I won't run again just to be able to walk around at ribbon cuttings and feel good because people say, oh, here comes the mayor. Oh, it's the mayor.
Exactly.
I could care less about that kind of thing. What I'm concerned with is getting results for the city. And if we have 4 years and things are wildly better and I can step aside, I'll step aside.
Yeah.
If things haven't moved the needle at all, I'll step aside, and hopefully somebody comes in who can do better.
Nice.
So that's my goal. I don't want to be in politics for the sake of being in politics. And I know there's a lot of people running who that is they just enjoy politics. Yeah. And that's not what I'm about. I don't know how anybody could really enjoy this so far, because I'm not enjoying it so far, and it hasn't even heated up yet.
Yeah.
So, but that's it. I just want, I understand it's corny. I just want to help people. But really, that's what I've done for the past 20 years. I've helped people, and I've helped people. I've always looked at that. I've written papers on for school on the ways that we've helped people through the years. Oh, you're just teaching people, how to fight. No, it's way more than that.
Yeah.
It's way more than that. As far as I could tell you, I have 50-year-old women who have told me stories where they could almost not function until they started doing jiu-jitsu. It made them more confident. It took care of their anxiety. And there's a saying out there that a lot of people say that jiu-jitsu saved my life. That's out there. People say jiu-jitsu saved my life, and they mean it in a lot of different ways. Some of it's for fitness, and some of it's for, anxiety, depression, loneliness, and I think it's awesome. I don't think I just teach people to choke people.
Yeah.
Although it's awful fun. I think it's a vehicle that we've used to improve the lives of people.
Nice.
And if I can continue that in a bigger way, I think that would be awesome.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Appreciate you, man.
Hey, appreciate you.
Yeah.
you're doing the real work out there. So I get paid for what I do. You don't get paid. So
Yeah.
I think you're one of the real heroes out there. So I really appreciate what you do. You're one of the unsung heroes. You know what I do get paid to do it. When I mentor these kids, they pay me to come.
Yeah.
They pay to come to me, and that's my business. That's how I earn a living. But the guys like you who are out there who are doing it just for the volunteerism, just for out of your heart, you're one of the real heroes. So
Thanks, man.
I want to shake your hand again for that. I appreciate that.
Appreciate
I
it,
appreciate
man.
that.
Thanks for sitting down with me.
Yeah, it kind of got dark on us, but
Yeah, I know the people
I
are
hope
gonna-
they can still see us.
I know the people's gonna appreciate it. And I just want to leave y'all with the fact that get out and vote. One thing that I usually try to teach people is God is not going to do what He has empowered mankind to do for each other. So we have to take some onus and responsibility to make our area better. Just like Dan said, the area will look better if everybody just had the mindset to clean their yard. And that's half the battle. And then another thing I tell people is everybody ignores the glass on the ground until their kid's foot get cut by it. Now it's, oh, who didn't clean up that glass? You saw it first. If you would have just got a broom and a dustpan and swept it up, nobody's foot would have got cut by it.
Yeah.
But everybody ignored the issues until it's right there in their face. And it's little things that we all can do to make it better. It's simple, like the golden rule. Do unto others as you would want done to yourself, and the world would be a better place.
Yeah.
So, good luck come this
Thank you.
November.
I appreciate
I
you.
appreciate you sitting down with us. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks to the camera holder.
Were we like completely in the dark by the time it was done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not completely, but maybe like the last 2 minutes.
Okay, all right.